Hi, my name is Jacob, and I have just entered college. Everything here is completely new to me, and I found it difficult to fit in. Most of all, I was incredibly nervous that I would end up with a rude roommate. But when I first walked into our dorm room, I saw him. He smiled at me, and I felt an instant wave of relief because he seemed genuinely nice. As I unpacked my things, we talked and got to know each other well. His name was Aaron, and he came from a very wealthy family. I, on the other hand, came from a poor background. My parents could barely afford my tuition, and I was constantly struggling to make ends meet. In the middle of the night, I got a call from my little brother. To avoid waking Aaron, I slipped out of the room and went into the bathroom. My brother's voice was trembling as he told me our mother was severely ill and needed urgent surgery, but we had absolutely no money to pay for it. You know I don't have that kind of money right now, I whispered into the phone, trying to keep my voice down. I don't know where I can get it, but don't worry, I'll figure out a way to take out a loan. I sighed, hung up, and opened the bathroom door. My heart skipped a beat. Aaron was standing right there in the hallway. It was obvious he had heard everything. "What are you doing? Spying on me?" I asked, irritation flaring in my voice. "Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude," he replied smoothly. "I just walked out here." Feeling uncomfortable, I went back to my bed. A few minutes later, after Aaron finished whatever he was doing, he walked over to me. "I heard what you were talking about on the phone," Aaron said softly. "Please, let me help you. I can give you the money right now, and you can just pay me back whenever you can." What other choice did I have? My mother's life was on the line. I accepted the money, completely unaware that the worst mistake of my life was yet to come. I rushed the funds to my brother, and thankfully, the surgery was a success. The next day, I turned to Aaron to thank him again. He just smirked and said, "Oh, you don't have to thank me, because there's something you can do for me instead. Something naughty." I let out a nervous chuckle, desperately trying to convince myself it was just a bad joke. But later that afternoon, while I was changing my clothes, I noticed him staring at me with an intense, unblinking gaze. I tried to tell myself he was just looking past me, but he watched my every move from start to finish. It was undeniable. "Are you checking me out?" I asked sarcastically. The moment those words escaped my lips, I wished I could take them back. Aaron didn't laugh. Instead, he stepped closer, reached out to curl a lock of my hair around his finger, and leaned in to kiss me. Adrenaline surged through me. In an insane reflex, I shoved him away with all my might. He stumbled backward, his head slamming hard against the wooden frame of the bed. "What the hell were you trying to do?" "Kiss me!" I yelled, my voice echoing in the small room. Aaron didn't say a word. He slowly stood up, clutching the back of his head where it had been hit. "Look, I'm sorry I shoved you, okay?" I shouted again, trembling with anger. "But your behavior was completely inappropriate." Once more, he didn't respond. He just turned around, walked into the bathroom, and shut the door. The silence left me feeling deeply unsettled and frustrated. For an entire week, Aaron didn't speak a single word to me. Then, tonight, I noticed a massive, heavy package delivered to the room, which he quickly shoved out of sight under his bed. Later, when I went into the kitchen to grab a drink, he walked in behind me. To my astonishment, he actually spoke. "Look, Jacob," he said, a strange smirk playing on his lips. "I admit my behavior was out of line. I assure you it won't happen again. Can we just leave it in the past?" His words sounded genuine enough, but his eyes told a completely different story. I couldn't shake the terrifying feeling that he was looking right through my soul. Trying to keep the peace, I forced a smile, and we both went into the living room to watch TV. A sudden knock echoed at our front door. Aaron got up to check it. As he walked away, his phone vibrated on the coffee table. My eyes caught a glimpse of the notification on the lock screen. It looked deeply personal. Driven by a sudden knot in my stomach, I picked up his phone and read the full anonymous message. My heart instantly exploded with terror. The text read, "Ready to butcher that arrogant roommate of yours?" Panicking, I quickly put the phone down and tried to act natural. When Aaron returned from the door, he smiled at me warmly, as if he wasn't actively plotting my murder. He picked up his phone, read the text, and calmly walked into our bedroom. I knew I had to run. I dashed toward the front door, but my hands hit the lock. He had bolted it from the outside before coming back in. There was no way out. He really wanted me dead. Terrified, I sprinted into the kitchen and squeezed myself inside a lower cabinet, pulling the door shut. Moments later, I heard the heavy thud of the front door opening again. Someone had joined him. With trembling hands, I dialed 911, whispering my emergency to the operator. "I swear he was right here. I've looked everywhere," I heard Aaron say from the hallway. Then, a second man's voice replied, "Then he's probably still in the apartment. Search everywhere." A horrific, metallic scraping sound echoed across the floorboards. It sounded like a heavy butcher's cleaver being dragged along the ground. My heart pounded violently against my ribs as their footsteps entered the kitchen. "Oh, look where he's been hiding." Aaron's voice chuckled right outside my cabinet. I had locked the small cabinet latch from the inside, but I knew it wouldn't hold them. They began hacking at the wood with the cleaver. The splinters flew, and the door started to shatter. I knew this was the end. In a panic, I turned my back to them, curling into a tight ball. Suddenly, the loud wailing sirens of police cars filled the street outside. "Damn it!" Aaron screamed, realizing the cops were coming. "So you called the police on us? I'm killing you anyway." With a final enraged swing, the cleaver smashed through the remaining wood and sliced deeply into my back. I screamed in agony as blood began to pour from the wound. Before Aaron could strike again, his partner forcefully grabbed his arm. "We have to go. We can't risk getting arrested," the partner yelled. They bolted out of the apartment, leaving me bleeding profusely on the kitchen floor. I dragged myself out of the broken cabinet, but the pain was too much. The world began to spin. Everything went black, and I collapsed. When I finally opened my eyes, I was lying in a hospital bed with my little brother sitting beside me. 2 police officers stepped into the room to question me about Aaron. I told them everything, that he was just my roommate, and nothing more. Then, they delivered the devastating news. They couldn't find him. Aaron and his accomplice had completely fled the town. I couldn't believe it. The monster who had nearly taken my life was out there, alive and free, roaming the world. How am I ever supposed to live or sleep soundly again, knowing he could come back for me at any moment? I can still see the raw rage and vengeance in his eyes. Deep down, I don't believe the police will ever find him. Aaron's parents are incredibly wealthy. Even if he gets caught, his father will just buy his freedom. Now, I have to accept a terrifying reality. I will be living in constant fear for the rest of my life. It has been a week since the attack, and my body is slowly recovering. But every time I look in the mirror and see the scar on my back, it reminds me of him. Every night is a playground for nightmares, where I am constantly running from Aaron and his cleaver. I haven't heard from him since that horrific night, but I know I will never be safe again.